Good evening to you, snooker fans, and welcome to this latest episode of the 15 Red podcast with me, Scott McCarter, here in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland. And I'm joined from London by Kellie Barker. Good evening to you, Kellie.
Good evening, Scott. It's good to be back again talking about another tournament. And this week it was the German Masters, which is always one of the great weeks of the season, and in a great venue. And well done for the first time this season, finally, to Judd Trump, who's back to winning ways.
Indeed, ranking title number 31 for Judd Trump. First in 14 months, and a good win over Sean Murphy, 10-4 in the final. Reasonable week overall. We'll get into some of the specifics in a moment, of course. Reasonable week overall. Not great in terms of drama necessarily, but some very good snooker played overall. So a good week, and the crowd at the Temple Drum are always absolutely wonderful. You and I were saying off air, it would be a good place to do a live podcast in due course, but we'll not get our listeners too excited just yet.
Well, I would really love to go over there one day, Scott. It's just a great arena. The fans just, there are a few venues on the circuit over the season where you think, oh, I would really like to be sat in amongst those lots. I think the Masters at Ali Pali has become one of those. The Crucible is still the hottest ticket in town, but the Tempodrome is just something else. It's by far. I think it's bigger than Ali Pali for the Masters. The crowd certainly make themselves heard, but they're so respectful. They're just the perfect crowd. They know when to cheer. They know when to be quiet. There's no sort of, with the best will in the world, there's no loutish behaviour. And it's just, they just make, as we've mentioned off air, the snooker wasn't perhaps the greatest tournament across the week because there wasn't many close games, no great dramas. But the crowd, they just love it no matter what's going on. And I think they really deserve that tournament. And I wish they had another one, really. It's what's really lacking is more snooker in mainland Europe. And Germany would be very deserving of another tournament if it was possible.
Yes, I mean, if you go back a bit into the sort of early to mid 90s of the old tournament in mainland Europe, it was very, it was televised on early Eurosport, but as you say, given the interest in Germany, and we've had tournaments in recent years in Romania and so on, so there is appetite in Europe, but as so often, these things come down to money.
Absolutely, and I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. I'm sure if these things were easier to do and to put on, and all the money was there would be tournaments every other week over there, because one a year doesn't feel enough. But as you say, the maths has to work. We've seen the investment in China, and over there they've got 5 or 6 tournaments now a season because they have the sponsors, they put the money in, and you've seen how successful the Chinese boom has been over the years. Somehow it hasn't quite worked financially to do all that in Europe, but let's treasure this tournament that we have got in Germany every year, because it really is one of the best. And like we say, those fans, and I think we seem to get a few British people every year, certainly from my friends group, have started going over. They really enjoy it. And I was listening to Dan on the Snooker Hall podcast earlier, and he's been to the final there for the last 2 years. And he says one of the great benefits of it compared to Alexandra Palace is that there's actually a decent amount of leg room, which, whether you're tall or not, Alexandra Palace lacks leg room, like I can't tell you. But so yeah, to go to the Tempodrome and actually have proper room to be comfortable when you're sitting for 3 or 4 hours at a time can only, be a massive plus for the tournament in my book. But anyway, shall we talk about what happened on the table? Because we did have a lot going on. And
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
yes, in the first round we had we say we didn't have a lot of drama, but we had a lot of good snooker. Zhang Gander made a 147 on the first frame of the morning when he beat Barry Hawkins 5-2. I was very lucky to watch this one live. I was in the office at work, and I put whatever the commentary game was, I put that on the tablet. But I did think to myself, oh, Barry Hawkins and Zhang Gander, that's a good one. So I watched that one on my phone. So I actually was a bit naughty at work. I had 2 screens going. But yeah, so I was lucky to see that 147 live. So yeah, I enjoyed that. And he's a man who looks like he's doing quite well, Zhang, at the moment. He beat Barry 5-2, which is no mean feat. And first shot of the morning, first poke, as they say, a 147. So can't be bad. There weren't any great shocks. It was the shock that did happen in the first round was that Ronnie turned up there, Scott, played his first event since the UK Championship, beat Long Ziwang 5-1 in the first round, although Long didn't really offer any opposition, if truth be told. Ronnie then did lose to Ali Carter in round 2, where his match rustiness showed, really, and Carter was the tougher, stronger player. Did you watch that one?
I did, and I also watched Ronnie's first one. I made Carter favourite the moment I saw Ronnie sort of, it got about 2 frames into his first match, and I said, look, he might win here because Long's not giving him very much, but Carter will be favourite next time because I mean Carter can play far better than Long. Long's D game would probably be worse than Carter's A game. So, Carter was, he was wonderful. And I thought to be honest, it felt like a bit of justice because it just feels at the minute that Ronnie's sort of treating the game, in my view, with a bit of contempt, really, just because he sort of thinks he can turn up whenever he wants and then he gets found out.
Well, his match rustiness certainly showed. And at this stage of the season, everybody's sort of played in and match sharp. And you can really see that Ronnie is lacking that at the moment. I mean, it was almost a surprise that he turned up in Germany because he doesn't usually go to that tournament. But he has sort of done an interview in the last week or so where he said he would like to give this 8th world title a shot. He thinks he's got 3 or 4 years left to do it, but he admitted himself that he needs to play a bit more, really. Because I think he will make the Players' Championship because he reached the Saudi final, which was such big points, and he's probably in a reasonable shape to make the Tour Championship as well because of that. So we'll see where it goes from here, but he definitely needs more matches. He's in the Grand Prix this week. He plays tomorrow morning, so we'll see how he gets on there. But anyway, we move on to the quarterfinals, and it was quite a good lineup, I thought, for the quarters. But like we say, we just first quarterfinal. Sean Murphy was playing really, really well, and he hammered Kyron Wilson 5-1. This was the blockbuster tie of the quarterfinals, in my book, and it didn't disappoint despite the one-sided scoreline. Murphy was in absolute top form, scoring heavily as every chance. Kyron had a 139 in the fifth frame, but at 4-0 down, it was all too little too late. And Sean Murphy wasn't to be denied there, Scott.
No, he wasn't. To be honest, it sort of reminded me of it. I mean, we'll get to how it ended up for Sean later on, but it sort of reminded me of the Gian Grand Prix. Sean looked the best player all week and then just came up short. But again, Kyron, as you say, he was absolutely marvellous. And I mean, particularly, I think it was good that Sean had a good run here because, the defence of the Masters, let's be perfectly honest, he bowed out rather with a whimper there, so he would have wanted a bit of confidence, and this run certainly would have given it. And certainly the way he played it well in the previous round.
Yes.
In the previous round, he beat Mark Allen 5-0, and then he beat Kyron 5-1, and you sort of think, dear me. And actually, that has direct consequence. Well, that meant that Kyron going to Hong Kong this week had to go deep and I hope I'm not spoiling anyone's surprise to find out that Kyron went out this morning. So no Kyron to defend his Players' Championship. But well done, Sean. He was
No,
magnificent there. He was
but
magnificent, Sean.
absolutely. And yeah, I mean, Sean, he's one of those who plays, he's either playing absolutely incredible snooker or he does tend to throw one in like he did at the Masters, for some unknown reason. But he was flying. But we move on to the other quarterfinals. Ali Carter beat Stuart Bingham 5-1. He was good to see Stuart at this stage of the tournament, but it was a pretty straightforward win for Ali Carter. Breaks of 72, 137, and 55 were more than enough to see off Bingham, who had a top run of 65, which is only half century. And Carter had more of the answers, really.
Yeah. Yes, I think really that wins over Ronnie do give Carter that extra bit of steel. I know he said afterwards there's no real animosity between them. I mean, they're not school children anymore, are they? But I do think there's an extra bit of fire in his belly, and I think the performance against Bingham showed that. I think.
I think so. And I do think Ali Carter, I mean, as it turned out, he didn't go on to win the German Masters, but I do feel that Carter's got something in him. He could have a, some sort of. I think I wouldn't rule out him winning a trophy before the end of the season. Whether it's a home nations where possibly some of the top boys might not play, although he's good enough to win anyway. But I
Yeah.
just feel in Carter's game there's something good coming for him, and we shall see. But anyway, moving on to the next quarter final, and it was the all Robertson tie, Neil against Jimmy. Neil Robertson beat Jimmy 5-1. Another 5-1 in these quarterfinals. In a week that hadn't had many close games, and it was the Australian Robertson who comfortably won this one. A 1-2-8 in the second frame set him on his way, and despite a 60 to win the fourth frame, Jimmy didn't have the game today, and it was business as usual, and a very normal day at the office for Neil this time, Scott.
Very much so. He's very, he is probably one of my favorite players to watch, Neil. But also, he just he loves making centuries. He's made over 1,000 now, and his cue action is like a dream, and he is just one of the best players to. Well, he's the best player we've ever seen from outside the United Kingdom. But I think, that win over Jimmy Robertson would have given him great confidence, but also he would have thought, right, with that sort of standard, I can win this now. Obviously, it turned out differently, but we'll get there
Yes.
eventually.
Yeah, but yeah, I was very impressed with Neil. I was impressed with him over the week actually, and like you say, he's just got a cue action to die for. It's really so straight, and I think him and Sean Murphy, their long potting, it doesn't get any
Yeah.
better than that. And yeah, but we were beginning to have a couple of some semi-finals to really savour. But anyway, the final quarter final was the best of them, I thought. Jord beat Zhao Gudong 5-3. This was an excellent match, which was nip and tuck most of the way through. Both had centuries to be 3-all, but Judd finished off with two half centuries to take his place in the semi-finals. In a tournament he tends to do well in, setting up a last four clash with Ali Carter. So yeah, great couple of semis to look forward to. But Judd was beginning to motor now. He looks good in this one.
Yes, and of course he's won the German up to this point 3 times. So if there was any tournament where he was going to end his drought, it probably would have been here. For some reason, he seems to like Germany. So this point, he's. I don't think Judd thinks in terms of heads to heads, but he probably would have thought, I've got a decent record against Carter. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that the drought might be coming to an end.
Yes, I think so. But yeah, like you say, he likes the venue. I think Judd is one of those who thrives on the crowd. He loves the Alexandra Palace as well, where with for the Masters, and he certainly likes the Tempodrome. And yeah, so that completed the quarterfinals, and what a couple of semi-finals we had to look forward to. Sean Murphy beat Neil Robertson 6-1. And Trump then beat Carter 6-2. So still no close games. But the thing I noticed most about the semi-finals was the walk-ons. Incredible atmosphere. It
Yeah,
was another day of one-sided matches, and what was a top lineup for the semi-finals. Murphy was once again in sparkling form as he beat Neil 6-1, which included three centuries in the first
yeah.
four frames, and he was generally unstoppable. Trump joined him in the final with a comfortable 6-2 win over Carter, with four half centuries. Judd did have the odd mistake in him, especially as he let Carter back in from 4-0 to 4-2. But the result was never really in doubt, as Trump set up a mouth-watering final for the German fans. Trump v Murphy, Scott, these matches tend to be ones to savour.
Let's just say, on paper, there wouldn't have been much safety in that final. Now, it didn't turn out to be quite the sort of sparkling scoring fest than we imagined because it would end up being 10-4 to Judd. But I mean, go back to the Robertson or to the Murphy Robertson semi final. I mean, Sean was absolutely superb. I don't mean to exaggerate, but I think that's the best he's probably played in a single match since he won the Masters. I mean, that was
Wow.
utterly unbelievable.
He looked so good and so sharp. You wouldn't think that match against Wu at the Masters a couple of weeks ago was his last outing because he looks a different player. And he said actually that he didn't do much difference
No,
in his preparation for the tournament. He worked hard. I think he went away and had a couple of days rest and relaxation with his fiancee Jo after the Masters, got away from it all, and
yeah,
came back prepared for Germany. And yeah, he was in sparkling form. So yeah, the final didn't quite work out how we thought it might do. I was thinking this really could be the 10-9 that the German fans deserved. It
yeah.
finished 10-4 to Judd. It didn't feel like a 10-4, Scott. I think
No.
when Judd was nearly at the winning line, and in reality, it could have been about 6 frames each, not as one-sided as it turned out.
Yes, it's one of those, as you say, where the score line is rather deceptive because as you say, first of all, on paper, you expect it to be closer, but actually, Trump wasn't quite as dominant as the scoreline would suggest. I mean, you know, they sort of have two centuries in the first session, and that was essentially it in terms of scoring from Trump. I mean, it wasn't world beating scoring by any means.
Um, Gosh, I don't know whether you've got a mic problem at your end, but I'm not hearing you very well. So I'll just talk on for now. But yeah, Sean, his long potting was tremendous again, but
Yeah,
Judd was by far the better player. When it mattered in the ends of frames, a few times Sean went well ahead. Um, but Judd, if he didn't quite get over the line, Sean, then when he left Judd in with one red left or something, Judd was making it count, and
yeah,
he stole several frames. So yeah, maybe that's something. There isn't much in Sean's game that is wrong at the moment, but maybe that's something he wasn't quite clinically clearing the frames up. Um, so yeah, maybe that's something he needs to look at. But straight over to the Grand Prix this week, so no time on the practice table really. But yeah, good to see Judd back winning again. It's been a long old 14 months, although in most
yeah,
players' books, 14 months isn't long at all.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, good to see him back to winning ways.
Oh, yeah. Certainly. I mean, Trump is probably the best uh, front runner we've got in the game at the minute. He's probably the best uh, front runner we've seen in some ways since Henry, in a sense, Trump. But I think at the same time, as you say, Murphy would need to maybe sort of brush up on his finals in a sense, because if you look at it, he's now been in 29 finals and in ranking events and only won 13 of them. Maybe he's got that sort of psychological block.
Yes, Scott, I'm afraid I'm not hearing you very well at all. I don't know whether you've got microphone problems. Do we want
Yes,
to pause?
yes,